Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Gufran Hakim, Major Teknik Informatika, Class B. I make this video for final test, and I want to explain about communication and things that are in communication. Communication is the process of conveying information and ideas from one side to others, performed verbally and verbally, using gestures such as smile, shake hand, and nudge, which can be understood by two sides. And communication is not only done by human, animal, plants, and electronic device. Even nature communicates too. In essence, all of creation of God do communication. Communication is human. Will be discussed communication between human beings. Animals clearly do communicate, like bees instruct their half-mates about the location of food by meaningly than dance, and chimpanzees have been taught to express themselves with the same sign language used by deaf humans. And on the more complex level, pet owners can testify to the verity of message their animal can express. Communication is process. We often talk about communication as if it occurred in a discrete, individual act, such as one person, utterance, or conversation. In fact, communication is a continuous, ongoing process. Consider, for example, a friend compliment about your appearance. Your interpretation of those words will depend on the long series for the experience stretching far back in time. How have others judged you appearance? How do you feel about your looks? How honest has your friends been in the past? How have you been feeling about one other's recently? All this history will help shape your response to the friend's remark. In turn, the word you speak and the way you say them will shape the ways your friend behaves toward you and others, but in the situation and in the features. Communication is symbolic. Communication are used to represent things, processes, ideas, or events in the way that make communication possible. The most significant feature of symbols is their arbitrary nature. For example, there's no logical reason why the letter in the word book should stand for the object you're reading now. We overcome the arbitrary nature of symbols by linguistic rules and customs. Effective communication depends on agreement among people about these rules. This is easy to see when observe people who don't follow linguistic convention. For example, recall how unusually speak of children and immigrant speakers of language often sounds. Type of communication. There are any type of communication are interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication means communication with oneself. You can tune into the one way that each of us communicates internally by listening to a little voice that lives in your mind. Like take a moment and listen to what it's saying. Uh, did you hear that? It may have been saying something like, "What little voice? I have a little voice. This voice is the sound of your thinking." And next, dyadic or interpersonal communication. Social scientists call two-person interacting a dyad, and they often use the term dyadic communication to describe this type of communication. Dyads are the most common communication thing. One study revealed that college students spend almost half of their total communication time interacting with one other person. Observation in the variety of settings ranging from playground, train, the bus, and shopping malls to other setting show that most communication is dyadic in nature. Even communication within a larger group, think of classrooms, parties, or families as example, consists of multiple, often shifting dyadic encounters. Uh, and next, small group communication. In small group communication, every person can be participate actively with the other members. Small group are the common features of everyday life, like your family, uh, athletic team, a collection of fellow workers, and a group of student workers on a class project. And next, public communication. Public communication occurs when a group becomes too large for all members to contribute. One characteristic of public communication is an unique amount of speaking. One or more people are likely to deliver their remark to the remaining members who act as an audience. This leads to the second characteristic of public settings, limited verbal feedback. The audience is not able to talk back in a two-way conversation in the way that might in dyadic or small group settings. This doesn't mean that the speaker operate in vacuum when delivering their remark. Audience often have a chance to ask questions and often brief comments, and their nonverbal reaction often a wide range of clues about their reception of other speakers' remark. And last, mass communication. Mass communication consists of messages that are transmitted to large, widespread audience via electronic and print media like newspapers, magazines, television, radio, and so on. Function communication. Uh, Function communication like physical needs. Communication is so important that it is necessary for physical health. In fact, evidence suggests that an absence of satisfying communication can even uh, jeopardize life itself. Medical researchers have identified a wide range of hazard that result from a lack of close relationship. For instance, people who lack strong relationship have 2 or 3 times the risk of early death, regardless of whether they smoke, drink alcohol, beverages or exercise regularly. And there are identity needs. Communication does more than enable us for survive. It is the way. It is the way, indeed, the only way we learn to who we are. Who we are. Our sense or identity comes from the way our interact with the other people. Are we smart or stupid, attractive or ugly, skillful or inept? The answer to that question does not come from looking in the mirror. We decide who we are based on how others react to us. Uh, and then social needs. Besides helping to define who we are, communication provides a vital links with others. Research and theories have identified a range of social needs we satisfy by communicating. Pleasure, like because it's fun, or to have a good time, and and fiction, like to help others, or to let others know I care, and inclusion, like because I need something to talk to or be with, because it makes me less lonely. And next, the physical needs. We should not overlook the everyday important function that communication. Surface communication is the tool that let us tell the hairstyles take just little of the sides, direct the doctor to where it's hard, and inform the plumber that the broken pipe needs attention now. Uh, Beyond this obvious needs, a wealth of research demonstrates that communication is an important key to effectiveness in the variety of everyday things. For example, a survey of over 400 uh, employers identify communication skill as a top characteristic that employers seek in the job candidates. It was rated as more important the technical competence, work experience, or academic background. Modeling communication. There are two modeling communication is are a linear model. Until about 50 years ago, researchers viewed communication as something that one person does to other. In this linear communication model, communication is like giving an injection. A setter encodes ideas and feelings into some sort of message, and they conveys them to a receiver who decodes them. One important element of the linear model in the communication channel, the method by which a message is conveyed between people. For most people, face-to-face contact is the most familiar and obvious channel. And next, a transactional model. Uh, Despite its simplicity, the linear model does not do every good of representing the way most communication operates. The transactional communication more accurate in the several respects. Simulation, sending, and receiving although some type of mass communication do flow in one way, linear manner, and most type of personal communication are two-way exchange. The transactional model reflect the fact that we usually send and receive a message to simultaneously. Communication competence, what makes an effective communicator. It's easy to recognize good communicators and even easier to spot poor ones. But what are characteristics that distinguish effective communication from their less successful counterparts? Answer the question has been one of the leading challenge for communication scholar, and although all the answers are yet in, research has identified a great deal of important and useful information about communication competence. Communication competence defined. Defined communication competence is as easy as it might seem, although scholars are still struggling to agree or on the precise definition. Most would agree that effective communication involves achieving one goals in a manner that ideally maintains or uh, and have the relationship in which it occurs. Uh, this definition may semble vague and verbose, uh, but closer look show that it suggests several important characteristics of communication competence. There is no ideal way to communicate. Your own experience show that a variety of communication style can be effective. Some very successfully people are serious, uh, whereas other as humor. Some are gregarious, whereas other are quiet, and some are straightforward, whereas other hint diplomatically. Just as there are many kinds of beautiful music and art, there are many kinds of competent communication. Characteristic of competent communication. Characteristic of competent communication. Although competent communication varies from one situation to other, scholars have identified several common uh, uh, denominator that characteristic effective communication in most contexts. A wide range of behaviors. Effective communication are able to choose their action for a wide range of behaviors to understand the importance of having a large communication. Uh, report Toyer, imagine that someone you know repeatedly tells jokes, perhaps discriminatory ones that you find offensive. You could respond to this joke in the number of ways you could say nothing, frequent risk of bringing the subject up will be greater than the benefits. Clarifying conception about communication. Having spent time talking about what communication is, uh, we ought to also identify some things it is not. Recognizing some microconception is important, not only because they talk to be afforded by anyone knowledgeable about the subject, but also because following them can get you into trouble. Communication does not always require complete understanding. Communication does not always require complete understanding. Most people operate on the implicit but flawed assumption that the goal of all communication is to maximize understanding between communicators. Although some understanding is necessary for us to comprehend one another's thought, there is some type of communication in which understanding, as we usually conceive it, is not primary goal. Consider, for example, uh, social rituals. How's it going, you ask? Great, the other person replies. The primary goals in exchanges like this mutual acknowledgement. There's fiercely no serious attempt to exchange information. Many attempt to influence others. A quick analysis of most television commercials show that they are aimed at pushing viewers to buy production, not to understand the context of the commercial. In the same way, many our attempts at persuading others to act we want don't involve a desire to get the other person to understand what we want, just comply with our wishes. Communication is not always a good thing. Uh, for most people, believe in the value of communication rates show we're close to the very thought in the uh, hierarchy for important value. In truth, communication is neither good or bad in itself. Rather, its values come from the way it is used. In this sense, communication is similar to fire. Flame in the fireplace on the cold night keep you warm and create a cozy uh, atmosphere. But the same flame can kill if they spread into the room. No single person or even causes others' reaction. Although communication skill can often make the difference between pleasant and unpleasant outcomes. It's a mistake to guess that any single thing we say or do cause outcome. Many factors play a role how others will react to your communication in a single situation. Suppose, for example, that you lose your temper and say something to a friend that you regret as soon as the word escape your lips. Your friend's reaction will be depend on the almost host of even uh, besides your unjustified remark. His frame or mind at the moment, archetype of mellow, uh, element of her personality, judgmental or forgiving, your relation history, supportive or hostile, and here acknowledgement of any factors in your life that might have contributed in your unfair remake. because communication is a transactional, ongoing, collaborative process. It's usually a mistake of things that even occurs in the vacuum. Communication will not solve our problems. If we could just communication better, it's set the fire of many unhappy people who believe that if they could express themselves better, relationship will improve. This is something true. It's exaggeration to say that communicating, even communicating clearly, it's the greatest panacea. Meaning rests in people, not words. We hint at the meaning rests in people, not words. When we said earlier that the symbols we use to communicate at arbitrary, it's a mistake to think that just because you use the word in one way, others will do so too. Sometimes differing interpretation of symbol are easily uh, easily chalked as when we might first take the statement "He's loaded" to mean the subject has said the much to drink, uh, only find out that he quietly guilty. This is my explain about communication and things that are in a communication. If there are mistake, I'm sorry. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.